Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest podcast. I'm Eric Kane alongside Brent Hubbs and Grant Ramey. Appreciate you guys for being here and checking us out here on the Volquest podcast. We do it every single Tuesday, discussing the latest in Tennessee football, recruiting, basketball, baseball, whatever happening right now. We do a mailbag show on Thursday where we take your submissions on the Journal's Quarters. So go ahead and be thinking about some more questions involving the current Tennessee team and kind of what's going on right now. But thought we'd do something a little bit different here on a Tuesday, in the beginning of July here. Thought we'd take some off-topic conversations, some off-topic questions and stuff. So, we called for some of those in a thread over the weekend. A lot of you guys sent in some good stuff, so we appreciate that. Before we get into some off-topic conversations, I do want to touch on yet another commit, Brent Hubbs. Tennessee football up to 17 commits. Darrell Rivers, firework on Independence Day. Rodney Garner made him a priority, a target, and he committed to Tennessee on Friday of this past week.
Yeah, from down in McEachern High School, which is a well-known high school in Powder Springs, Georgia, 6'5", 270 pounds. This is a guy that Coach Garner evaluated multiple times in the winter time, saw him again in the spring, and liked everything about his game. And a lot of people feel like his stock's on the rise. I mean, I understand kind of where some fans are right now. I mean, this is another 3-star guy that everybody kind of questions a little bit, but I think this is another one who has a chance to see his rating improve as you go. And again, this was a deep evaluation by Rodney Garner. And Grant, when you've done it for 3 decades plus, and you've got NFL Hall of Famers, college football Hall of Famers, and a bunch of NFL guys, if Rodney Garner believes the guy could play, if you're Josh Heupel and you're the recruiting staff at Tennessee, I think that it's hard pressed to go, yeah, we want to wait and see. But this is a guy that Rodney Garner certainly wanted and went and got.
You're telling me he's done enough, he's proven enough, he's got enough track record to, we're going to take your word for it. If this is your guy, this is your guy. Yeah, I would 100% agree. If he's a Rodney guy, then I can get on board with that.
Yeah, certainly. And again, I mean, that's there's a bunch of July 4th commitments. It's kind of the new thing. I don't really know why that's a national thing now, it seems like, but there was a bunch of July 4th commitments around the country, and there's going to be more commitments this week. And I think Tennessee's got a chance to get some good news this week. You see, if you're watching on YouTube, you see some clips of Rivers and just his ability to move and lateral movement, all the things playing vertical up the field that Rodney Garner likes. But Eric, I think there's a chance for more good news for Tennessee as the week progresses here, and we'll see how it all plays out. Guys can change. There were several guys who had commitment dates scheduled for this week that have pushed it back, like Joel Wyatt and some of those guys. But I do think there's a chance for some more good news for Tennessee as the week progresses here.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, what's Javonte Smith going to ultimately decide? Combe is another one that Tennessee's been on. JP Shabazz announced when he's going to make his commitment to a program. So, yeah, be on the lookout for some of those guys potentially. And Tennessee's obviously in all those, and, we'll see what the week has in store. Tennessee now with Darrell Rivers, 17 commits. There was a run of 7 commits in 5 days. I'm going to call this 8 commits in, 9 days or whatever. 1 5-star, 8 4-star, 8 3-stars, 14th nationally, 6th in the SEC. Tennessee went up 2 spots in the On3 industry rankings from 8th to number 6 in the SEC over the last week. So class is starting to come together in a big way. And again, like Brent said, we'll see exactly if more good news could be on the way this week. And we will cover it all right here on Volquest.com. All right, so let's get into some off-topic conversations. Grant put out that thread, over the weekend. A lot of you guys sent in some good stuff. We'll start with Shell Ray 14. Said he wants to talk about Tennessee baseball being good, what it means for the university, and what Lady Ball basketball getting back on track could do for the university as well. Tennessee baseball obviously won a national championship in the 2024 season. Historically, man, I mean, when you think of women's basketball, when you think of what that game has meant, I mean, it's Pat Summitt that kind of goes together, and Tennessee plays a big role in the history of women's basketball. So seeing what Kim Caldwell has done this first year, Sweet 16 appearance, she's attacked the transfer portal. 2 thumbs up for me, Brent Hubbs. That's awesome stuff.
Well, no doubt. And I think the question gets back to, and we've asked this before, and Grant, I think we've talked about this topic before, the challenges in this day and age of Revshare, NIL, and we'll see how all that plays out through the House settlement. But I think there's always, we talk about thread the needle through tradition and innovation. I think you're sitting here looking at how do you thread the needle of being an all everything school and being a school that focuses on, a couple of sports or 3 sports in the moneymakers. And listen, Tennessee, I think every program, every sports program at Tennessee was in the postseason this past year, which is remarkable. I mean, was it 3 straight years, Grant? I think in the top 10 of the Learfield Cup.
Correct.
Correct. And Danny White's made it clear Tennessee's a have and not a have not. It's just the balance of being a have and competing at the top end in every sport is kind of a unique challenge, I think. And I'm not saying anybody should take a back seat. I'm just saying this is the reality of the dollars and cents of where we are right now, Grant.
Yeah, and it's a good problem to have. I mean, it's almost kind of like asking, how does good publicity help your university? I mean, this is eyes on Tennessee baseball for many years now, since COVID, basically well into the into June, being relevant on a national stage and having Lindsey Nelson Stadium looking like it's crazy every time the postseason starts, and those environments and all that stuff, and the runs in Omaha, and then for Kim to come in and to recruit the way she's recruited, to play a different kind of style, the way she plays that different kind of style, it's very just different, interesting, and fun to watch. I think it's a good problem to have, to try to figure out, like I was just talking about, the threading of that needle between the everything school and how much emphasis you put on the other sports, the bigger sports. But if all these teams are winning, all these teams are going to the postseason, it's a great problem to have. It's nonstop positive publicity for your team, or for your school and athletic department.
Yeah, I'll say this too, and you both of you guys jump in here. I think the one thing that also stands out is it's not just that those programs, and obviously baseball's got a longer history of winning under Tony Vitello, but those 2 programs, and the Lady Vols doing it quickly, have developed a brand and an identity. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, Tennessee obviously has won big in baseball, but the style and how they've won has been important. Now, not everybody loves it, but it's created a brand. It's created a sense of pride. Kim Caldwell's playing a style you don't see every day in college basketball. And I think that you have to have, particularly in some of those sports like that, I don't think you can be bland. I think it's hard to be bland in those sports and capture the attention of the fan base and help the university the way that it has at Tennessee. And I don't want to take anything away from everybody, other teams that are winning. I mean, God, LSU's winning baseball, and those people are fanatical, crazy. But Tennessee fans in baseball have taken on and have ran with Tony Vitello's mindset, mentality, and the brand of baseball that they play and their style. I think that's been important for this fan base and for the university as well.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, it's funny, like you have one team, and it wasn't just the 2022 team, but the 2022 team kind of put it on the map in terms of in your face arrogance, showboating, and hey, they backed it up. That they were the number 1 overall seed. I understand they didn't make it to Omaha and everything. Sometimes that's just baseball, but they certainly backed it up. But the teams since 2022 have been judged in that same light, and a lot of these teams didn't have that type of fire. Not saying they didn't have fire, but maybe they could have used some more of that fire. But nonetheless, at the basis of it, I mean, Tony Vitello's teams are going to pitch. They're going to be a top 5 pitching team in the country. They're going to hit the crap out of the baseball and be a top 5 team nationally in home runs. That's just kind of the MO, and it's a fun, exciting brand to watch. And I was going to say this before you went on there, Brent. It's given Tennessee fans, I mean, and us in the media too. I mean, it's given us more content, more things to work with. I mean, it's year round. It's a blast. Like, you went from football and basketball season, and then March and all that, and then you kind of have a dead period right until recruiting hits up. Well, now with women's basketball, certainly in the month of March, and with baseball, I mean, baseball can carry you all the way into June potentially if you have a great season. And there's been a lot of great seasons here lately. So it's been a blast, Grant, just to follow that trajectory the last couple of years under Tony Vitello, specifically 5 straight super regional appearances, 3 trips to Omaha, and a national championship.
I was a student at Tennessee 2006 to 2010, and we went and covered a lot of Tennessee baseball just because that's what student journalists did, because nobody else was there going to be there, because it was just a very irrelevant program. It was Todd Raleigh era. It was start of the Dave Serrano era. I mean, I remember sitting in some of those games, and you could just count the number of people in the stands on one hand. And I'm not taking a shot at Tennessee fans, because they weren't a very good program. That I don't blame them for not being there on a midweek game when you're struggling to win, 18, 19 games, whatever it was, 20 games back then. I can't remember the win totals, but it was just you could look out at the fence and see the Omaha stuff and think, man, it feels like a million miles away from Omaha and where this program would have to get to, and for Tony to do it as quickly as he did. And then obviously for the Lady Vols too, there were some lean years where it felt like, what's it going to take to get this program back to national relevance? It feels like Kim's already established that pretty quickly.
Well, and I think you got to give Tony Vitello a ton of credit, because obviously he recruits. They put rosters. I mean, look, they got in Major League Baseball All-Stars. They got guys in lineups all over the league. So he's obviously had a bunch of talent. But I think the other thing that Tony probably doesn't get enough credit for is he's very much the man of the people. Like, it doesn't, you kind of wouldn't see that or wouldn't think that kind of when you hear him and everything else. But I mean, this is a guy who he's on radio shows all the time. He's out in the community. He's side court at basketball games. He's at football games.
There's a reason he was on MLB drafts coverage last year. And, I don't know if he will be this year. That's coming up in the next week. But there's a reason they want him on set to get his thoughts and get his personality. I mean, he's good at it, right?
Yeah, he is. And I think that that's something that was missing partly in those lean years too, is there wasn't any charisma to the program. And listen, I love Dave Serrano, and hats off to Dave Serrano. They had a hell of a year at Johnson University. They really did. I mean, they went to, he took them to a place they had never been to, and so tickled for what he's got done there. But there just wasn't the charisma that there is now. Tony might say anything, but at the same time too, I mean, think about it. They're in Omaha, and who's in the crowd in Omaha? It's Peyton, it's Larry Pratt, it's
Morgan
Rick
Wallen.
Barnes, it's Josh Heupel. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's done a really good job. And I think this is where Delmonico struggled a little bit after he had some success, is he just wanted, and he wanted to be on this equal territory type deal, right? And I think Tony understands, I'm not saying that there's not frustrations at different points. There are, I'm sure, but Tony also understands the commitment that Tennessee's made to his program and to the baseball program. He also understands football is football. It's the king, right? And he understands the importance of basketball and what it means to the athletic department. I think sometimes when guys have success, coaches have success, male or female, they kind of get lost in some of that, right? I think Tony's done a good job of, we're going to be the best program we can be, and we're going to represent the university the right way. We're going to go win big. But I also understand, kind of where football is and what that is. And it's never, I mean, think about it. You've had coaches in years past be jealous of the Lady Vols publicly and talking about it. And the harmony that these guys have, and I think Vitello's a big part of that, has been impressive and has been very good for the university. That's a very long-winded answer to the question, but it's pretty impressive, particularly when you look at the length that he's been here and kind of how he's made it his own. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously the investment into the baseball program from the university side, Tony Vitello is the highest paid coach in college baseball. His staff is full of all-stars. He's got a huge staff, right? Support staffers that are incredible. The stadium, obviously, that's going up, and I don't know if you guys, I'm sure Brent has, if you guys have driven by it lately, it looks completely different than it did, a couple of weeks ago. So it's coming along. It's as competitive as anybody in terms of college baseball right now, in terms of the investment, all told, not just talking about NIL and all that, but all told into the baseball program that you're going to see anywhere in the country. So
you have to make a choice in this league, Grant. I mean, in baseball, you either want to play in it or you don't. You can't sort of stick your toes in the water and dabble in it. This league is too competitive. There's too much money being spent at other places around the schools in this league. If you want to win, you're going to have to invest. You can't have invest into baseball at the SEC level. If you do, you'll get gobbled. I mean, you'll get swallowed up.
No halfway crooks, right?
Yeah, there's no halfways. That's for sure. You got to be all in.
And Tennessee went from a team that was just trying to make it to Hoover back in the day to a team that the university has invested in baseball, and baseball has not missed a beat in terms of returning that investment and going to 5 straight supers and going to the number of College World Series trips they have and winning a national championship. I mean, it's been incredible to watch.
It's been fun for sure. going back to what you kind of touched on a moment ago, Brent, this is from Magic Rat Vol. Complete whiteboard examiner of how Revshare will work and the difference between it and NIL deals through the collective. So many here still don't understand. I'm not saying I understand the fine details, but everyone needs to understand how they work, who funds them, who pays them, etc.
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody understands right now. And when I say anybody, I mean, we're all waiting to see what happens with NIL deals, right? Like who's going to approve the NIL deals, who's not going to approve the NIL deals. Now you have the rev share. All right. So Grant, I mean, I don't have a whiteboard. I should have a white erase board, but you have your rev share that's guaranteed money. Whatever you're putting into football, you have that amount of money to spend, and you can spend it however you want to in football. Do you want to give the quarterback and the left tackle 50% of the rev share money a year? You can. If you want to give everybody equal or whatever, you can. You can do it however you want to out of that dollar amount. What we don't know is, I mean, let's just face it, NIL's been pay for play, right?
Right.
I mean, it's okay, we're going to pay you, 6-7 figures to sign a few autographs every year, and that's your NIL deal. I mean, now supposedly these have to be legitimate deals and not just donor funded money. The question is going to be, what does that look like? And we don't know. I don't think anybody has any idea. So there's two separate pies, right? There's the rev share pie and how you divide that up. And then it's what is a legit NIL deal, what's going to be rejected, and then what's going to go to court to fight what's been rejected, because we know that's going to happen really quickly.
Well, what they didn't want from the start is what it quickly turned into, and it's still what they're trying to say they don't want. But I mean, fool me, I don't think it's going to change anything anytime soon. Like, I'll believe changes are going to happen when we start seeing changes. Like, I feel like NIL deals are still going to be NIL deals.
Yeah, I mean, some of the reported NIL deals this summer, it doesn't look like anything's been changed at all.
Right, and that's where we've been headed the last 4 years. Like, there's all this new stuff is being made legal without guardrails to protect against stuff that they don't want. And as long as we keep moving at this, breakneck pace forward, good luck. I mean, it's going to get harder and harder to contain. Like, they can talk about it and they can say it's got to be legit deals and it's got to be this and somebody's got to approve all this stuff. But it's easy to talk about. Doing it is another thing. And I got to see it happen to believe it.
Here's the other thing I have a question about too is, okay, we have this accounting firm that's going to verify these deals, right? Well, I mean, I think we all agree the NCAA's pace of action is a little bit slow. Is that fair to say that it's a little bit slow? So how long is it going to take to get a deal verified? And so what happens if someone does a deal and they go ahead and start getting paid for it, and then somebody comes back 2 months later and denies it? Are you repaying the money? Are you not going to do the deal until it's verified? Well, they may have a 6-month backlog on these things. I mean, it's thousands of athletes that are going to be submitting stuff in this deal. I think that it all sounded good in a vacuum, but I just don't think in reality that it's going to get executed. And I think that's what Danny White believes and Donnie Plowman. I think that's why they've been so outspoken in terms of, collective bargaining is ultimately where you're going to land. Because, I mean, as Danny White said at the Caravan stop, I think it was in Nashville. I mean, I hope the House settlement works. Wasn't very confident. Yeah. Hope it works, And so I think the next 2 months, what we start to hear behind the scenes, what you start to hear publicly about this was rejected or that wasn't rejected. I mean, is there really truth in the fact that I guess that group told the ACC 70% of the deals last year would have been rejected? Okay. I mean, we don't think that's going to court. I mean, that's the part is just going to be really hard to see how it is managed, because I don't think they have a very good plan to do anything. This is somebody came up with this thought. They spent a lot of money putting this plan together, but I don't think they did enough of a deep dive into the execution of the plan when it all comes rolling in. Because, I mean, Revshare. I mean, isn't everybody going to submit NIL deals here in the next 6 weeks? It's not like you're going to submit one in the middle of November, right?
It's too much gray area, and it's too much to try to wrap your arms around as a governing body until you put the resources towards it, which I don't know how you could put the resources towards it to, like Hubs is talking about, approve this number of deals in this amount of time.
We've heard this analogy a million times the last couple of years, but it stands so true in the conversation. I mean, toothpaste is out of the bottle. You literally, good luck trying to put it back in.
You can't.
It's going to smear everywhere. Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's not even. And I guess that's my, if I'm going to do a soapbox here, that's my sense of frustration is no one, and this has been the NCAA's problem for 3 decades. Okay. No one will sense and understand amateurism is done. Like we're over that. So quit holding on to that tradition that this is going to be this way, Grant. I mean, it's just, somebody's got to be forward thinking from a leadership standpoint and not try to, I mean, the guardrails are not going to be there. It has to be a complete philosophical change, which if they'd have done a complete philosophical change 30 or 40 years ago and paid them a little money then, maybe it wouldn't be as out of control as it is right now. But they were like, well, we're just, okay, we lost in court. Okay, now we'll figure it out. And everybody was like, all right, fair game, let's go. How do you get it? I mean, I just don't get it back. It's impossible.
You have to move as quickly as you can towards professional sports infrastructure and the way it's built while keeping college athletics. Like, I'm not saying that college football goes to an NFL infrastructure and suddenly it's whitewashed and there's no game day atmosphere and there's no pageantry. You know the differences between an NFL stadium and a college stadium and the differences in a college football Saturday and an NFL Sunday. And I'm a huge NFL fan. And I love the league and all that stuff. But at the same time, there's a difference. And you can keep those differences while having that infrastructure and getting to a point where, stuff is a little bit at least contained and kind of, I don't know, kept in a certain accordance with, NFLPA and all that. Like there's a players association, there's collective bargaining, there's all that stuff. There's contracts that actually hold people to stuff. Like you're going to have to get there as quickly as you can and work really hard to protect college football and everything that comes with it.
Yeah, they spent too much time waiting on the courts and Congress and the federal government to handle it for them.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. It's just not happening.
Jaybird won, pretty big undertaking here. I don't know if we're going to be able to accomplish this, but we can have a conversation, Grant. We'll start with basketball. He says, who's your starting 5 for each decade going back to the 90s? I mean, I guess that's not
all right. No, I've done my homework.
There we go.
Ready. Here we go.
Now let's be honest. I called in some reinforcements for the 90s and the 2000s in Rob Lewis and the venerable Mike Strange.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
You went to 2 guys who saw a lot of bad basketball and some good players, particularly Mike Strange.
Where do you want me to start? Current day or?
Let's go recent and let's go back.
Okay. 2020s, I came up with Zakai, Chaz, Dalton, Josiah, and Jonas. I'm not in love with Jonas. There hadn't been a ton of great centers, I don't think, unless I'm missing one. For the 2020s, that is. Kennedy Chandler's obviously somebody that you would mention in there, but Zakai over 4 years, it's hard to beat what Zakai did for you. Santi's a guy who had a really good couple of years before he kind of struggled late. Jordan Gainey, obviously, last year was really, really good. But if you can space the floor with Chaz and Dalton, connect and have Zakai run the point, and who was the other one I had on there? Josiah, a guy that can so versatile. It's going to be a little bit of a small ball lineup with Jonas, but I think there's a lot of talent on the floor. I'm sure I'm missing
Grant
somebody.
Ramey, Jonas Adu apologist. All right, I love it.
2010s, Bone. This is where it gets difficult. I'm a Kevin Punter stan. Like I think he was a really good basketball player, especially if he was here longer.
Would you not have loved to have seen Kevin Punter not only here longer, but with a cast around him, a supporting cast around him? I mean, there was so much isolation play. Kevin Punter had a terrific, quick career at Tennessee. Loved his game. Loved that kid.
He would drop 20 at the blink of an eye, and nobody else on the floor around him. Like if he'd have been here 4 years with Rick and talent around him, it would have been scary. Grant Williams is on that team. Tobias Harris is on that team. Probably Jarnell Stokes is on that team. Where I struggled is you could go KP or you could go Josh Richardson. There's probably a bunch of other guys in that time frame that I'm missing, especially earlier in the 2010s.
Where's Admiral?
Later, Admiral's the guy that could be in that conversation. 2000s. This is more the Rob Lewis and Mike Strange perspective. C.J. Watson, Chris Lofton, Tyler Smith, Vincent Yarbrough, Ron Slay. I don't know outside of that who
That's
we're
a
missing.
good 5.
In the 90s, Wharton, Hamer, Houston, C.J. Black, and Carlos Groves / Greg Bell. Now, y'all, Hubs, you're going to have to tell me about some of these guys because this is before my time.
Greg Bell was kind of Tennessee's version of Benny Johnson. Greg Bell could go. He could go 9 of 12, or he could go 2 of 16. He had no conscience, none whatsoever.
I love that.
When he was on, he was a really good player. I mean, really good player. I don't know. I mean, Isaiah Victor.
There you go.
Did he get a mention from Mike Strange or Rob Lewis? Or was there any Victor conversation?
Rob. I think Rob's 90s input was Allen Houston and Jerry Green's 4 best players, which kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, you weren't going Shane Williams or Shane Carnes or Torrey Harris or any of those poor guys that had to suffer through the Kevin O'Neill run.
And let me just put a disclaimer out for my 2010 and 2020s team. I did my research for about 5 minutes this morning, jotting some names down. So I'm probably missing some obvious candidates. I'm going to get called an idiot on the general's quarters, which what else is new?
There's a lot of really good players in that 2010, 2020 range. Yeah. I mean, a lot of really good players. There was obviously some lean years in there. With some of those other guys, but it's amazing what Rick Barnes has put together here in short order. I mean, I wasn't
listening as in depthly as I should, but Tobias Harris, Jarnell Stokes, were those names mentioned? They were
on there.
Thanks for paying attention to the podcast.
Sorry, I was thinking about the football.
Good job, show host.
That's the thing is the 20s.
Like having a conversation with some people in my family. I'll not name names.
The 20s didn't have a lot of great center options. The 10s had a little bit better center options, or big man options, I should say. But the 90s and 2000s, it felt like had pretty, more decent center options, big man options, whereas the 2010s and 20s were more guards and wings and point guards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think C.J. Black was a really good player. He was a good player. There was a good run with some guys there. That team, I guess that was slaying those guys that should have beat North Carolina to advance to the Elite Eight.
Yep.
They had a big lead in the Sweet 16 and didn't get that one done down the stretch there.
I was at a middle school dance during that game, and I said, I'm out of here. Tennessee's playing North Carolina in the Sweet 16.
You left the middle school dance?
I left to go watch that game. I remember it was in Austin, Texas.
What song was on the DJ right when you left?
I don't know. Our art teacher was the DJ. It was probably some Boys to Men or something like that. Slowing it down for the slow dance at the end. I'm out of here. Ron Slay's dunking on somebody.
Good choice. The other half of this question was the all 21st century football roster. Clearly, we're not going to do an entire roster, but I was starting to do like a starting 11 on offense and defense, and then my nose started bleeding before I had to, hit record on this podcast. So I got the majority of the defense done, guys, but we can kind of fill in the gaps here if you want to play this game defensively. And I mean, there's so many people we could put on this list, right? But like if we're doing like just a starting 11 instead of an entire roster.
We're doing this going back how far?
21st century.
Going back how far?
To 2000.
Okay, thank you.
2000. Defensive line, Robert Ayers, Albert Hainsworth, John Henderson, Derek Barnett.
I like it.
Ayers is kind of an edge player, right?
Definitely those two in the middle. I mean, where do you put Pierce versus Robert Ayers? Right?
Yeah, that was my conversation.
I mean, Robert Ayers had a really good final year or so, but Robert Ayers, Well, he and Pierce kind of. I mean, there's probably some similarities in that deal.
And he helped coach him.
I think if you've got Albert Haynesworth and John Henderson on the inside, you could have Austin Price rushing the passer, and it'd be fine.
It'll matter. Yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting on that deal is the inside guys that you could put in that conversation, because you got Jesse Mahalona, Turk McBride. I mean, we're both really good players on the inside that could do things. I mean, obviously Rodney's had some guys who've had some success here as well. They're really good at defensive tackle. I think that's a reason why they were really good when you look at what they were. I mean, you had
Dan Williams was a first-round pick.
Justin Harrell, Dan Williams, and they had a lot of good players. They had a lot of good players on the defensive line. That's why Tennessee has been, defensively so consistent for so long, was because they've been so good in the line of scrimmage on the defense, particularly in the interior.
Linebackers fun. You can go a couple different ways. I think Kevin Burnett needs to be on there somewhere. Gerard Mayo's got to be on there. A.J. Johnson, Kevin Simon.
Well, Kevin Simon, that's the best linebacker high school tape, one of the best defensive high school highlight tapes I have ever seen. It's just an absolute shame that he tore his ACL playing in Dallas in an all-star game in the cold, which changed the trajectory of everything for him. And then he, suffered another injury on top of that once he got to Tennessee. Had Kevin Simon been healthy and stayed healthy, Kevin Simon could have very easily been a top 10 pick, but certainly a first-round draft pick. I mean, one of the more talented guys you will ever see. Injuries just were so unfortunate for him.
Yeah.
I mean, just really so unfortunate.
A.J. Johnson's a good – don't leave him out because he didn't have much around him. I think he had like 138 tackles as a sophomore in 2012.
And he was on kickoff team. Respect. I just remember watching that.
That
the dude
just
sprints down the field, makes the tackle, and then stays out there and plays defense.
Right, just an animal.
Well, I mean, think about that. That guy played in the NFL after missing basically 3 years of football.
Yeah,
because of the crazy, the court battle, which obviously he was innocent of. But I mean, he went back and he played for the Broncos and was playing there, and I think suffered an Achilles injury that derailed him in Denver, and he got a cup of coffee then with the Dolphins at the end. But I mean, not many people take, hey, let's take 3 years off from football, then go back and play in the National Football League, which he did.
And not only did he make it and say, "Oh man, I finally made it. I overcame all this stuff, and I'm on a roster." I mean, he was a dude.
He could play.
He could play.
I looked it up. 424 career tackles, 3 years, 100 plus.
And one of the nicest human beings off the field. Just a really good guy. Do you have a starting lineups? Do you have a media guy with starting lineups in front of you? Because I feel like we should have just ran through some starting lineups.
I don't. I have a old Wikipedia page of all the top draft picks for Tennessee. So
all right,
this one topic could be an entire podcast.
It could. I know. Keep going here.
Secondary. I don't know where he play, corner or safety. He can play either one, but Jason Allen's on there for me.
Oh, always seemed very underrated. I don't know if he was underrated. I was pretty young then. I was a kid, but I always loved his game. I thought he was really, really good.
Friend of Volquest, Jonathan Wade is going to be on there somewhere.
Jonathan Wade, Jonathan Wade's an interesting one because Jonathan Wade was is he a receiver? Is he a DB? What is he? Ends up being a corner and was a good player. I mean, he was a summertime commit. Got that commit on an AOL instant messenger while I was at the lake, I think.
You didn't have an away message up?
No, his screen name was something like Big Pimpin' or something crazy.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, it was back in the day when that's how guys rolled. But it was something Pimpin', I think, was his screen name.
It was something Pimpin'.
It was. It was. One of the good dudes, man. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of his. Good guy. Was a good player. Certainly.
What about
Jonathan Hefney was a good player.
Oh, yes. That's a good one.
What about Jabril Wilson?
Oh, Jabril Wilson from City College in San Francisco.
Didn't he wear number 8, and then he went and played for the Giants? Am I thinking of the right name and player?
Yep,
I think
Jabril Wilson. That's him. Absolutely.
Grant, what do you think Hubs' away message would be?
This guy named Eric Berry.
Yeah, Eric Berry. He's at the top of the list.
He was
Berry's
okay.
on there without a
kind
doubt.
of under the radar.
Hubs TTYL in the garden.
Hubs is away message. Got a mess of tomatoes.
I bet you I never put an away message up ever in my life because I was getting whatever means necessary.
The best part was the white Apple laptop that made it from the Johnny Majors era to the Butch Jones era, and every time you opened it, it said "You've got mail." Out loud, the AOL voice.
Hey, you want to know the great thing about that laptop?
What?
You ready? It'll still fire up today.
Gosh,
it still works.
The bottom looks like a 2007 Altima that had been driven 200,000 miles.
It still looks that way, but that puppy will still fire up and still roll. That's exactly right.
And you still got mail.
And I do still have mail.
Cameron Sutton also in that conversation too.
Yep.
Yeah, obviously Cam Sutton. Rashad Baker was a good player at safety.
Again, disclaimer: we're missing a lot of names, and we're not as stupid as we sound right now.
I mean, and again, like we could do this on offense, but there's like 7 different running backs we could pick from, right? I mean, quarterback's an interesting one, obviously. I mean, I probably go Casey.
I got to give Inky Johnson some love too. He's got to be in the secondary. Inky Johnson's got to be a member of the secondary if we're going to do that.
We'll take one of the linebackers out. We'll play 5 DBs like they do in this era of college football.
Okay, that's fine. But I mean, Rico McCoy could be on that roster. I mean, he's a good player. There's a bunch of good players. Tennessee had a lot of good talent.
Do you guys want to attempt to do offense, or y'all want to move on?
Let's do offense next week or at some point so we can spend some time on it.
Because, again, we could have the same conversation on the offensive end. All right. This is from Doolittle Vol. Just give us some of your most entertaining, funniest recruiting stories. I could honestly listen to Hubs talk old recruiting stories for hours.
This one, I'm going to give Hubs the floor, but I'm going to give him some areas that I want him to venture into. I believe there was a school administrator that you bugged like crazy trying to get kids on the phone, or an office worker, a kid on the phone. And then there was another one where the kid didn't have a house phone, but he called the neighbor to get the neighbor to go talk to the kid, get the kid on the phone. So from those two things, go.
Jarius Jackson, who was from Mississippi, who ended up going to Notre Dame, was a quarterback who did not have a working house phone. And so the number I had for him was the neighbor, who was the sweetest, kindest person that you would ever get a hold of. Out of respect, you didn't call her after dark, because literally when you called them and said, I'm trying to reach Jarius, you could hear the sliding door open, and she walked her cordless phone out to the backyard
called him over to the fence.
And Jarius would come over and would be on the phone that way. Sweetest lady. I have no idea what her name was. I can't remember now, but she was the sweetest lady. Jarius Jackson. I think it was from Tupelo, but somewhere in Mississippi. Maybe not been Tupelo. There have been multiple school administrators that on signing day you wore out. There was a school administrator, and I can't remember who the prospect was, but there was a school administrator that I got her to transfer the call to the auditorium, and somebody just held the phone up. Now, it sort of sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher, but you can make out Tennessee. And so I confirmed. There's no text messaging back then. Nobody's got a cell phone. So I confirmed that person had committed to Tennessee. It was a signing day commit, because some lady was kind enough to hold the phone up in the auditorium so you could hear.
She had no idea she was a Volquest freelancer at that point. At that moment in time.
That might have been talk radio. That might have been 90s talk radio with Mike Keith. At that point in time, she had no idea what she was doing. Yeah, I was a much kinder person back then, Grant. I could really. Yeah,
you're so edgy now.
I could really talk and convince people to do some things for me that way. The most nervous I ever was probably on a commitment. T. Martin had changed his mind about 4 times during the process. Committed to Tennessee, Auburn, Tennessee, and the whole 9 yards, right? And so it was the time of his announcement, and he was announcing at like 3:15, 3:30ish, somewhere in there, right after school was let out. Maybe it was 3:25 at the gym. They wouldn't let him do it during school because I think it might have been his second press conference because he had changed his mind. I can't remember.
We'll give you one, not two.
Yeah. And so he was doing something in the gym or the auditorium. And the coach, I called the coach's office number, and T was in there. And I got T on the phone, and I interviewed T at like 3. Sports Talk came on at 3:15. And so I interviewed him and recorded an interview with him saying he was committed to Tennessee. And we basically ran the interview as the press conference started and unfolded. And I mean, I paced the radio station floor he was very emphatic it was Tennessee, right? But I was like, man, if this guy gets up there and pulls out an Auburn hat, I mean, might lose my job at this point. Yeah. But we could go on at 3:15. Tennessee's newest football commitment is 4-star quarterback T. Martin. Tennessee holds off a late challenge from Auburn. Here's T. Martin talking about, this, that, or the other. And then you just hoped he didn't change his mind for the 8th time. So that one was very, very nerve-wracking.
It was it was 2 trains leaving the station at the same time.
Yeah, and you just didn't know which. Were you on the? Did you pick the right train or not pick the right train? That one was hard. I've never had anybody interview me more than Kevin Simon did. Kevin Simon loved an 11:45 midnight Eastern phone call where he was just quizzing you about everything in Knoxville and the program. And all you're trying to figure out is like, hey, man, you definitely going to visit? When you're going to visit? Where's it at? That type of thing. I talked to him probably more than anybody at that point early on in the Volquest tenure because he was he was just, he was a very inquisitive human being. And he was looking for specific things. And he asked a lot of questions. Chris Donald was the first one I ever got to do like a pre-written story. I convinced him when he was in San Antonio to do an interview with me, and I would hold it until he put his hat on NBC at the Army All-American game. And as soon as he put his hat on, I turned the story loose that had quotes. So that was my first foray into having something pre-written. I don't think I'd ever done it before then. Super nice guy. Chris Don didn't work out, but super nice kid. Really good kid.
Austin was here. He would tell us about getting out the phone book and calling every Stevens family in Flower Mound, Texas.
Yeah, we've heard that story.
Until he got a hold of it.
If Austin was here, he would tell the story about Eric Berry, which is a good story.
That's true. He would
tell the Eric Berry
good
story.
ones.
Tell us about you calling Randy Moss a lot, because I hadn't heard that one in a couple of years.
I tell you what, I'm doing a story. I hope to get it done by Wednesday on the 92 Tennessee-Georgia football game. And I'm doing that story because basically this fall will be almost to the day, the 33rd anniversary of that game. And I've always been fascinated by that game. And I was doing an interview with Philip. And Grant, if you listen to the audio, you probably heard the back end of that conversation because you put it through the transcriber for me. For whatever reason, at the end of the conversation, he and I got on the topic of Randy Moss. And I told him the Randy Moss story about Randy's schedule of, Randy went and ate lunch and then went home and took a nap. And I just called Randy until he finally answered the phone, dog cussed me, told me he was going to Notre Dame, and hung up. And that was the only conversation I've ever had with Randy Moss. And I wish him nothing but great health because I love him on TV now. I think he's
coming back to TV. He's coming back.
Don't you think he's great on TV?
Oh yeah, he's really good.
I love him. And it's one of those deals where I always wanted to. Literally, for years I could recite the kid's home phone number. Like he was at Marshall, and I could still recite the kid's home phone number. And he was a pain. God, he was a pain. But man, he was so good. And now he's fun on TV. I call Bob Pruitt. Was it Bob Pruitt? Was he the coach at Marshall when Randy Moss was there? I think it was.
You're asking me. I think I saw Randy play in the mini dome.
Did you?
During the Marshall years, if I'm not mistaken.
So I think Bob Pruitt, yes.
Bob Pruitt was the head coach. Randy had been dismissed at Florida State because he couldn't leave the state of West Virginia because he had violated his parole deal. And so everybody knew he wasn't going to go to West Virginia because that recruitment was just a disaster. And I literally called, and I have no idea. I guess there were some rumors that maybe he was going to try to come to Tennessee, which, I mean, he couldn't even legally do, I don't think. And I called the Marshall football office, and like an assistant coach answered the phone, and I just asked for Coach Pruitt. And Bob Pruitt got on the phone and said, "Hey, is Randy Moss coming to play for you?"
Oh,
and he was like, "Who are you, and why are you calling me?"
Don't worry who I am. Don't worry who I am.
Don't worry about who I am. But is he coming or not? And he kind of stammered around and basically no commented me. And at that point, I knew he was going to Marshall. When you deal with those coaches at that level, it's pretty fun. I called Dave Clawson, just cold called him in his office and asked him if he was a candidate to be the offensive coordinator at Tennessee. And he was just dumbfounded. Like, his secretary just put me right through to him. He's like, "Hello, Coach Clawson." I'm like, "Hey, man, you coming to Tennessee?" He's like, "Who are you, and why are you cold calling me?"
Speaking of Dave Clawson, that's another deep dive. That JV game in 2000, what was that, 8? That was a surreal experience.
Oh, the Hargrave game?
Yes.
Yeah, that was to get, I guess, Hefty and some of those guys, because Hargrave had so many of those players. There was a defensive lineman on that team that Tennessee was trying to get to. I don't remember if they got him, but they wanted them to play that game in Neyland Stadium because there was, quote, a recruiting advantage for them. And
right. I was
Did
a
you
student.
cover that game?
I was a student. I was in the press box, and I
I
remember
was up
looking
there
over.
going, "Why are we here?"
Yeah, and Philip was sitting like in a box by himself, lights turned out, just watching the game. It felt like, I think. And then we were on the field after the game, and we tried to get Clawson to talk, and I think he knew his fate already at that point. And he's like, "I'm not talking after this."
Yeah, I'm out of here.
What I want to know is how do those JV games work? Because there was one year.
Well, they don't work anymore, right? They don't exist. That's why it's so crazy.
They don't anymore. I know that, but
it was bad.
Didn't Tennessee have a BJ Coleman getting him ready to start a game at quarterback and put him out there in a JV game one time or something like that?
Oh yeah.
Even in 2008, it felt like this hadn't been done in 30 years.
It was
probably had.
No, I mean, I think maybe Condridge Holloway was the last time there was a JV game or something crazy like that when they played the JV deal.
That's a deep dive we need to do.
That was one. I'll tell you one other one, then we'll go to the next topic. I know we're about ready to wind it up here. It was a very, very crazy experience going to Hyden, Kentucky and watching Tim Couch play a game. Because you drove up and you got off, I guess, just north of London, Corbin, and you got on the Daniel Boone Parkway where there's not a street light. It's like pine tree and just trees. And I mean, you're driving through a forest is what you're doing. Can't see anything at all. And you go into this and you kind of get off of an exit and it drops down in. And so I got there early and got parked. And when you walk into the stadium, the way it's set, it looked like a scene out of Field of Dreams. There was like headlights for forever.
Oh, that's awesome.
Of coming in. And like this little bitty community became like this show. I mean, like it was like anybody who was in that remote area of Kentucky was coming to watch this kid play football. And I was there the night he broke the high school passing record. That deal. I did like radio hits in Nashville and Knoxville. Got home at like 5 a.m. or 4 a.m, something crazy like that. And, I had to do Saturday sports talk after doing 6:30 sports cast. I mean, it was something. I was dumb and didn't go to bed basically. But that was a cool experience because that was in the middle of nowhere, and it was high school football at its peak of what you think of high school football. When you think small town community, this is a small town community that just swelled because there was this rock star playing quarterback in this little bitty town. It was crazy.
That's why I love, and again, there's no disrespect to all the bigger schools that we go to every single year because that's awesome too. But I love going to small town high school football in East Tennessee because, for Rivalry Thursday, because you get a taste of that a little bit. Like everything shuts down. Like this is the show. This is the biggest thing in town.
The whole town. I mean, and the town had shut down at like noon, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people were walking a half a mile to the stadium just to try to get, it was crazy. It was just, it was cold that night, but man, it was fun. It was like November, I think.
Shout out Greenback, parking your trucks along the fence and watching the game.
Greenback, shout out Oliver Springs. Every time we're there, we were there this past year, and I remember doing the game for the press box, and there's a couple houses right beyond the football field, and you could see into the living room, and I could see the TV, and I could make out a football game on the TV, and people were on the porch. I'm like, I mean, if that is not the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
It was a cool experience. I'm glad I got to go on that one. That was a fun trip to take.
Let's end on one more. We got several, but we'll do this exercise again maybe next week. This could lead into a big old conversation, but we'll try to be quick here. If you had to cover one story from an opposing fan base from the last 10 years, what would you choose and why? Would you have liked to have covered a major scandal, coaching change, redemption story, etc.?
Oh, I got one. You want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go, Grant.
2013 Auburn football. It's not a scandal. It's not a one major storyline, but it was the kick six season. It was the prayer at Jordan Hare season. They go to Pasadena. They play Florida State in an incredible BCS national championship game. You had an offense that would run for 800 yards a game. It felt like it feels like nobody goes up and down quicker in terms of where the program is than Auburn. And that season, they'll have a 5-win season and they'll be winning 12 games a couple of years later, just like that. And
I know we said 10 years, but I was going to say the Cam Newton year. I mean, who wouldn't want to cover that?
I didn't even notice the last 10 years part. Sorry, 12 years.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Give me 12 years.
Was Cam on that 2013 team?
No, he was 2010, right?
No, that was Nick Marshall. Remember they
Nick
came
Marshall
to
was Cam's backup. Nick Marshall, the former DB.
They came to Neyland and ran for 1,000 yards. They was a really good football team.
I would not have wanted any part of the Cam Newton story because there was so much he said, she said going on with that deal. That one, as a journalist, would have been just. I mean, it would have been maddening. I mean, to me, it would have been maddening to cover. And here's the thing. I mean, coaching changes are good for business, but I don't wish covering coaching changes on anybody. I mean, I don't. I mean, there's nothing. There's those people that's their basic job every year is they work that cycle. Hats off to them. Now, maybe if you're covering it nationally, it's a little bit different. But to be in it every day, no, man, I don't. Those have taken years off my life. I don't have any desire to do that. I'm with Graham. I mean, I like a redemption. I kind of like a redemption story, type deal like that. I think those are fun. A lot of storylines, a lot of good things to cover there. I'd tell you one of the nicest group of people I ever dealt with was, and it would have been kind of fun to cover that whole team, I think, was Tom Osborne's last year at Nebraska. He announced his retirement at the bowl game, but I think a lot of people in Nebraska knew he was right at the end, that he was about done. Scott Frost and that group, they were the nicest people. And then they just murdered you on the football field. They were just terrific. I mean, they beat you to submission, but I mean, they were the nicest people to deal with. And of course, they wanted to get out of Lincoln, so they went to the Orange Bowl. Tennessee played them after that 97 season. They went to the Orange Bowl and got there before Christmas. Tennessee met down there Christmas night. And I'll never forget, I flew in, I guess, the morning of the 26th, and there was press availability maybe that afternoon. So Nebraska availability. So I'm going and I'm interviewing Scott Frost. So what did you guys, to me, it was foreign that you spent Christmas as a team at a bowl site and not, because Tennessee always did the family thing and we'll meet at the bowl site Christmas night. Philip was always you're going to be with your family Christmas Eve. It may take you a while on Christmas Day to get there, but you're going to open presents Christmas morning, do whatever with your family, and then you're going to the bowl site. Nebraska had been in Miami for 2 or 3 days. Scott, what'd you guys do on Christmas Day? They had a 70-play scrimmage or a 60-play full padded scrimmage on Christmas Day afternoon. And I was like, Tennessee is done. They're going to get beat to submission in this game. And they did. And, of course, a lot of people will tell you that was the game. That was the catalyst for that team to do what they needed to do in the offseason in 98 to kind of go to a different level. Nicest Nebraska people in the world. But it was like it was like Ivan Drago or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like they were just such a machine. Like it was just like, this is a whole different level of football than I've ever experienced. I mean, and I thought the SEC, but what they were doing was insanity.
And Tennessee, for the last 3 years of that run, had been as elite as it gets too.
Oh, yeah, they've been great, and it's like,
but it still felt like there's a whole nother level.
The late Bill Anderson, we're in the booth there. I guess it's Pro Player Stadium at that point because it wasn't in the Orange Bowl. By the way, the Orange Bowl not a very good venue. It's a whole topic for a different day. Nebraska comes out, and I mean they're like the red coats. It's like here they come. Bill Anderson turns to, it's going to be a long night, isn't it? It's going to be. They were huge. They were so much bigger than Tennessee. It was correct because the SEC was playing kind of everybody's a safety becomes a linebacker, and linebacker becomes a guy. And Nebraska was like, that guy's 300 pounds. He's 300 pounds. I mean, like they were huge. They were just huge across the board.
I hated Nebraska as a kid because they killed everybody, and that was like the first lesson that I learned. And once they got pretty bad, that sometimes the game's better when some of these usual powers, traditional powers, are playing well and kind of on their game, as opposed to just struggling and just trying to get back to that stage.
And boy, they've never even come close. They've never even come close to getting.
It's a high bar to cross too, though.
Yeah,
a 60-play scrimmage on Christmas Day. I mean, practicing football on Thanksgiving is kind of like a tradition for good teams. Like that's awesome. High school realm, college realm, obviously. 60-play scrimmage, full pads on Christmas.
I'd never heard anything like it. I'm like, okay.
Jeez.
And they're like, it's no big deal. Like, hey, this is what we do. Like, okay.
This was fun. Great submissions. We'll hold on to some, and we'll ask for some more. Maybe do this next week. But appreciate you guys for submitting some off-topic conversation starters, and that was a whole lot of fun. We'll be back on Thursday for the mailbag edition of the show. So any questions you guys have on the Tennessee football team, the current team, recruiting, basketball, NIL, baseball, transfer portal, whatever you got, Brent's going to put out a thing later today, and you can a thread, and you can go ahead and submit your questions there, and we'll take them. We'll discuss that on a Thursday morning. Appreciate you guys for being here, making Volquest.com your morning listen here, and being.
Can't serve two masters, Eric.
I know.
Whoops, Eric Kane. That's why your nose is bleeding, buddy. You got too much stress going on, man.
Too much going on. Well, I appreciate you guys for being here and making Volquest your number one stop here on the message boards. Constant conversation going on the journalist quarters each and every single day. For Brent Hubbs, Grant Ramey, I'm Eric Kane. We'll talk to you again on Thursday morning here at Volquest.com.